everybody. What an extraordinary honor it is to get to join with this group of people and my old friend Vandana Shiva and so many others. There are people here far more important for you to listen to than me, but let me do the thing I can do, which is provide a kind of glimpse of where we find ourselves right now. And I can do that because I've been at this a while. I wrote the first book on what we then called the greenhouse effect, what we now call the climate crisis. It was back in 1989, and I've been at work on it ever since, so I can give you a sense of where we are. And where we are is pretty much right where the scientists told us we were going to be. That's in a way the tragic part of all of this. It's not like we've discovered something new. We just haven't done the thing they told us we needed to do, which was stop burning fossil fuel. So now that's our job. Because there's no longer the slightest thing theoretical about the danger. If the summer of 2023 in the Northern Hemisphere proved nothing else, it's that we are in hot water deep. Literally. The oceans were hotter this summer than we'd ever seen, and by a large margin, a margin that scared scientists. The planet was warmer than we've ever seen, and not just us, warmer really than anybody we'd sort of count as a fellow human has ever seen. We had the hottest day and week and month and season ever measured on this planet. Those measurements go back a couple of hundred years, but we have good proxy records, tree rings, ocean sediments that stretch much further back. And the scientists are convinced that we saw the hottest weather on this earth that's happened for the last 125,000 years, maybe the last million years. So you're part of history, but not a good history, because that heat comes with extraordinary trauma. It does so many things. It raises the level of the ocean, partly by melting the poles, but also just because warm water takes up more space than cold. The molecules are moving around faster. That heat also evaporates water. If you wanted one thing to kind of understand the 21st century by, you could do a lot worse than warm air holds more water vapor than cold. That means in hot places, you get more evaporation, more drought, more fire. There was fire everywhere. Fire in Greece, fire in Canada, where the boreal forest burned so hot that it released more carbon, twice as much carbon as everything everybody else did in Canada all year, all the flying, high heating, driving, cooling, whatever. That's called a feedback loop. Once that water is evaporated up in the atmosphere, it's going to come down. It comes down in buckets. We've seen that everywhere this summer, including right here in beautiful Vermont, where I live, where we had the worst flooding we've ever experienced. Quarter mile from where I live, one of my neighbors lost their home in a landslide. So there is no place that's a refuge from all of this. The planet is under a kind of siege. That is the very difficult news. And of course, it's hardest for people who live in places with less wealth to insulate themselves, at least for a while, from those changes. The iron law of climate change is the less you did to cause it, the sooner and the harder you get hit. So the good news is that we actually have some idea what we need to do now to change. And what we need to do above all is stop burning things. For 700,000 years, human beings have been engaged quite productively in the process of combustion. When we first learned to use fire, we could cook food. That gave us the big brain, for what that's worth. Let us move north and south away from the equator. Anthropologists think that standing around the campfire all night talking over eons helped develop the social bonds that mark our species. When we learned to burn coal and gas and oil in the 18th century, that produced the Industrial Revolution, and with it what we call modernity. But now the drawbacks of that combustion are far outweighing the benefits. Not only the existential climate crisis that I have described, which is by far the biggest thing that human beings have ever done on this earth. Nothing else comes close. But also the fact that combustion produces particulates that lodge in lungs, killing people, lots of people. We now know that 1 death in 5 on this planet is the result of breathing the combustion byproducts of fossil fuel. New data this summer showed that the average person in Asia was losing 5 years of their life. The average person in Delhi, perhaps the most polluted big city on the planet, is losing 12 years of their life. So the job is to stop burning things on this planet, which we can do because the good Lord was kind enough to hang a large ball of burning gas 93 million miles away from Earth, and we have the wit to make full use of that intense combustion that's going on up there out in space. We can catch those rays on solar panels. The wind that comes when we differentially heat the Earth, causing breezes to blow, can be captured in those turbines. We can store that power in batteries when the sun goes down or the wind drops. And if we do that, combined with conservation, not using energy we don't need to, then we've got what we need to do the things that people on this planet require: to cook, to heat, or to cool the homes where they live, to move themselves about where they need to go. You'd think that we'd be doing everything we can to make that switch, but we're making it slowly, sluggishly. And that's because the fossil fuel industry, above all else, is good at slow walking this transition. They want to keep their business model intact as long as they possibly can, which is why we need to keep organizing, to push, to push, to push. Everybody needs to keep organizing, including those of us over the age of 60, which is why we've got this third act thing underway. Tell your grandparents, please. We're doing a lot of pushing, and we need to be doing a lot more, especially this year. The thing that scared me about this summer was less the heat than the fact that it didn't produce any noticeable big upsurge in activity, in demand, in action. The next 12 months have to be about action, and it has to be action that we take together. That's the only kind that will get done what we need doing. So many thanks, friends, for all your good work.